Welcome to another episode of the ghetto in the United States of America. But we're trying to talk about healthcare, the dangers of Robert Kennedy Jr.
Whip it, whip it, work, 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 work.
Welcome back to another episode of The Black Brief, hosted by myself, Jaylen Black, where we give you the latest in politics, pop culture, and problems of the day, briefed in a very Jaylen Black way. Welcome to another episode of the ghetto in the United States of America. I wish I could say I'm joking, but I naturally smile because that's how I cope with things. But if you are someone like myself that is an empath toward others and you just see the suffering, even if it's not exactly happening to you at the moment, it just weighs heavy on your spirit. And I've been feeling a lot of that. But we're trying to talk about healthcare in this episode. So episode 4 of season 2 will be called The Dangers of Robert Kennedy Jr. So as of recent, Robert Kennedy Jr. was officially confirmed as the Secretary of the Health and Human Service Department of the United States. This is a very important position to you and I. The Health and Human Services Secretary controls Medicare, Medicaid, vaccines, abortions, the Affordable Care Act, you name it. There is so much that goes into our health, and not just our physical health, but we're talking about the health of our food too, and what we mean when we say that we're making a healthy America. This role directly plays into that. So there are many things troubling about Robert Kennedy Jr. And let's say for the first time, you just start discovering who this man is. It is interesting to me that even if you didn't know who Robert Kennedy was in the past, it has been so apparent in his confirmation hearings of how he is not prepared, not equipped, and completely unsafe to be in this position. Let's talk about how we got in this position. So instead of having a backbone and actually calling for Republicans to vote against Robert Kennedy Jr., because many people knew they had suspicions about how he would actually lead the department. This is someone who has widely been known as an anti-vaxxer and a conspiracist for healthcare in general. So someone who would make you believe that the reason that babies aren't dying anymore from getting diseases so early because he has vaccines for them is by happenstance. Robert Kennedy Jr. is so unsafe. So Mitch McConnell, who is the majority leader in the Senate, could have called for his Republican colleagues to vote him down. Mitch McConnell himself ended up voting down Robert Kennedy, but it didn't make a difference because you remember we were talking about the control and how things matter outside of who wins the presidency. The Senate is also very important. You have 2 representatives from every state. You have very, very slim majorities, but still having a majority, especially when you have Republicans controlling the executive branch, if there were to be a tie, Vice President J.D. Vance would come in and be the tiebreaker. And of course, he is going to vote for anything Donald Trump wants him to, or President Elon Musk, whoever. So the Republicans, once again, did not have a backbone, and it was split between party majority. And because it was split between party lines, rather, and because Republicans have the majority, Robert K. Jr. was confirmed for Secretary of Human Services. This man said, and I quote, because you'll see an article that says, oh, it's misleading what he said. This is a direct quote from what he said as he was being his confirmation hearings. We should not be giving Black people the same vaccine schedules as white people. This is the guy who's over our health and well-being in this country now. For years, y'all, this is years. This is not a new thing in 2025. For years, people have argued and tried to make a case as to why Black people and other people of color just have different body types than white people. And it's not to say that we don't have genetic differences. We do. We're of different race. However, when it comes to the internal human body, we all have organs. We all have hearts. We all have stomachs. We all have brains. Like, these things are across the board. You have them. So for someone to come in and say that because of our race, we should be treated differently in the healthcare system is blasphemy. And it's also crazy because Black people, we are still trying to regain trust of our public health infrastructures because we've had testing on us in the past. I'm sure you can name a few that have been inhumane, and they've scheduled them on Black people using us as test subjects as if we are not people as well. So now, in 2025, the person over one of the most important, I would argue, one of the most important departments of our federal government is reenacting the same rhetoric from before. And let's be very clear. I've always felt like, ever since I remember hearing the slogan of "Make America Great Again," the first question I asked was, okay, what again? The again, when are we referencing? Because I was like, well, my generations came from slavery. They came to this country in chains. You came to this country in private jets. We went through from the slavery to sharecropping to civil rights movement to just fighting new oppressions every couple decades, honestly. You would think that we would go forward as a country, but we haven't. When you have a Project 2025 that really wants to just make America white, I mean, that's the essence of it. When you attack things like the Department of Education and you want to whitewash history and ban books, this is the result. You don't want to own the history of this country. So, what is just harmful outside of what he said, but RFK has long held these views on being anti-vaccine. So for those of you who might be planning to have a child in the next 4 years, these are things you should really be thinking about because they might try to ban the ability to get certain vaccines for your babies, things that we have overcome as a country. You no longer have like tons of babies dying from these diseases because we've had vaccines. And listen, I know some anti-vaxxers in my life. I am not to say that as an American citizen, you can very much choose what you do with your body. I'm saying that someone in control should not be telling us what to do with our bodies. You decide for yourself, but to take away the access of it, that's the problem. And speaking of access, and you know, on the Black Brief, we love to talk a lot about reproductive access because I've long said that this is one of the greatest fights of our lifetime. It starts at contraception, literally the very beginning, RFK, who had long held a view that was not anti-abortion. He actually had a pretty moderate view of abortion. It should just be left up to people. Makes sense to me. But why, the moment that he started getting some talks with Donald Trump that if you support me and I win and I'm gonna get you a nice cabinet position, he has completely switched what he believes in. Now he says it's a travesty anytime an abortion happens. And if you are a Black briefer, you understand that when we talk about abortions, we're also talking about miscarriages because miscarriages, medically speaking, are referred to as spontaneous abortions, things you can't control. A lot of women and birthing people who want to be parents, again, want to be, they try to be, they have been praying and hoping and wanting a baby. You cannot control a miscarriage. They're very natural and it happens often to women. You know, more often than you think. I think for people that are always like anti this whole thing, I'm like, when's the last time you've actually like had a woman open up to you about their experiences trying to get pregnant or being pregnant? Yeah. So it is very dangerous that RFK, the person that is now going to be over the Health and Human Services Department, has switched swap on abortion. Also, it's very dangerous this attack that they are doing for the CDC. The CDC, that was our guiding light through the pandemic, that we survived. Some of us survived because 1 million+ people died in the United States from the pandemic, because back in November of 2019, when Donald Trump was originally president and he was getting briefed on the coronavirus, he was like, you know, that's not serious. That fear mongering. And then months later, we had no answer. People dying left and right. We had no vaccines. We had no answers. So, RFK, anti-vaccine, anti-healthcare. Because when you really think about it, RFK is like, yeah, we really just all need to work out and be healthy. Working out every day is not going to stop cancer. Working out every day is not going to stop disease. Working out every day is not going to stop every health complication there is. You need to listen to doctors. You need to listen to researchers. That is why they have more credentials than you and I to do the work that they're doing. And they've been in school for over a decade, so they can inform the American public on what to do in the event of diseases. Like I said, one of the biggest things, we've talked about this in our previous episode, is bird flu. It's not just about eggs going up. It's the fact that we're not going to know what chickens are contaminated because they are wiping out stuff with the CDC. You remember when COVID first started and everybody just claimed they had a family member that worked for the CDC that told them, like, what is it going to be now? And also, I have to talk about people with disabilities. RFK literally said that vaccines have been causing kids to have autism. They make it seem like autism is just like, oh my God, this bad thing that happens, instead of just loving autistic children. And the crazy part is, a lot of people are on the autistic spectrum. Most people are, but a lot of it goes undiagnosed. So while you want to sit here and attack people with different learning abilities, different physical abilities, we have to understand that we're not far off from that. We're probably on that as well. We just haven't been diagnosed. Particularly speaking to the Black community, I used to work in mental health and substance use policy. And when I just read and understood and learned more about these different diseases, I understood that, oh, I've seen this many times before. We just didn't know what to call it. We just didn't know that was what that was. So in the next 4 years, I think it's important for everybody listening to the Black Brief, hear me very clearly. Take the steps you need to take care of your health. Because now we really cannot trust that the government will make sure that our health and safety is cared for. So we have to do it ourselves. That means, whether that means you eating healthier foods, eating less processed foods, eating more whole foods, eating more fruits and vegetables, drinking more water, making sure you have regular exercise. Do all you can to avoid the things that are preventable. But of course, as we know, some things are inevitable, like cancer. Like, these are hard things to be dealing with regardless, even if you take all the measures necessary. And again, for my future parents, we have to keep in mind our children and babies and what they need. I had a friend that told me the other day, she was like, we're just saving up money to always be able to have emergency flights in case we need to go to another country to get a vaccine done. That's crazy. In the United States, these United States of America, we are talking because we might have to go to another country to get medically necessary things for our bodies, because we've handed the Health and Human Service Department to an absolute conspiracist lunatic. And let's be clear, he has the last name Kennedy's, but the Kennedy family, the political family that many of us like, they don't claim him. They don't support him. His takeover has caused such damaging PR to the family that they had to immediately come out, even when he announced that he was running for president, and say, we're not behind this. And it goes against what President John F. Kennedy wanted for the country. So don't let the Kennedy man fool you. This is not a man that we can trust. This is not a man that we can play around with. And this is not a time in the United States of America where we could think, oh, this is a joke, it'll probably be fine. No, We are giving full control of departments to people that definitely aren't qualified to be there. But on top of that, they incite fear in us and believing the things that we have long held, not because we just chose to believe them, but when you see diseases exponentially dropping because of the introduction of vaccines, I would think they work too. I don't know. I'm no doctor, but RFK is dangerous and I need everybody to be aware of that. Let's pivot a bit. The Super Bowl. I know it was a couple weeks ago now, but I think we should talk about it. President Trump was there, and I'm glad he was there because he got to witness that halftime performance by Kendrick Lamar, which called out America in almost every subtle way you can on national TV. It's crazy leading up to the Super Bowl. Like, of course, like we knew we would hear Not Like Us. We would hear like diss tracks of Drake. Everybody knows about what was going on, what is going on with Drake and Kendrick Lamar and Drake suing Kendrick Lamar and his group and all this. And I would just like to say, I like Drake and Kendrick Lamar. Okay, like we exist, right? Like I don't think it's mutually exclusive to like one or the other. But what the Super Bowl halftime performance ended up being was showing America and its flaws and how we rely on the backs of Black people and we want our culture and we want our influence, but we don't want us. And when I first saw it, I will say I'm the type that I had to like read other little think pieces about this. I was like, oh, I missed that the first time. I knew Samuel L. Jackson being the Uncle Sam. I knew that was clever because it's like, how many times have you been used to like hearing something from someone like, oh, that's too loud, too ghetto, a little too much. You should tone it down a bit. Oh, you should wear less big earrings. Oh, you should not those lashes, not these things. Like really taking away from like our culture and experience because we have to conform to what America is and try to figure out our place in it. And what Kendrick Lamar did in this halftime performance was the opposite. They made a like red, white, and blue flag, but it wasn't in the same patterns and format as the American flag. Because America is discombobulated, because America is scattered when it comes to their support of others. And then even just seeing like him rap, like it was a section where he like kind of rapped on a block with guys who were like in the quote unquote hood. And like the commentator said, yeah, you need to take one of them out, you know, like it's how we're talked about as people. Like you shouldn't have to wonder when somebody is victimized and something is done is what were they wearing? What were they doing? You know, not this life that mattered in this world is gone. So I think Kendrick Lamar hit a lot of important points and it was timely. I needed Donald Trump and his cronies to see that because we're not talking about an America that is together or that wants to be together. We're talking about we have given power to the people that don't want to see us win, that don't want to see us thrive. Hell, that don't want us to even have public education and healthcare. I'll close with this. You ever wonder like why the Department of Education? Like you would think the Department of Education, like what do they do to anybody? They're educating all of the children of this country. The less people are educated and the less people are educated on Black history, the more and more you're going to have people have the ability to be taken advantage of. The reason, in large part, and you can reference back to my election takeaways this past general, a big reason why I feel like this election was lost is also just lack of civic education from the average American person. Like grade school, college, you know, people did not learn it and did not, if they learned it, they didn't learn it well. And that's why people were able to just spew out whatever they knew you would buy to divide us, to get into power, to just do all the things that don't benefit you. For the longest, poor whites, rural whites have voted against their best interests to also keep Black people down. For the longest, white people have been upset at the civil rights movement and have since voted for the party that the ideologies that didn't do that. For the longest, you have people in power telling people underneath them that if we give opportunities to this group that is all the way down here, that is somehow going to take away from our affluence at the top. These attacks didn't just start with Project 2025. This has long been held. And again, my answer and remedy to all of this is you have to lean on community, but we have to continue to organize silently because they cannot do anything without our money and without our power. There is more of us in this country than people in control. It doesn't matter how much money they have. So I encourage all of you, if you're looking and wondering, what can I do? What should I be doing? What can my family do? And you just need something to fight back with, we have the answers. Just gotta find them. You gotta do it. Thank you so much for joining another episode of The Black Brief. Can't wait to update y'all on all the craziness next time. And we will see you in future episodes. Don't forget, like, comment, subscribe, and share these videos. You all we all need this information to know how we should move forward and how to adjust in this ever-changing climate under Elon Musk and Donald Trump.